With her bachelor's and diploma in music and master's in English, Bhoomika Jain sang for All India Radio Yuvavani program during her undergraduation. She learnt under Kirana Gharana earlier and later from Mewati Gharana's exponent Gargee Dutta. Apart from her musical journey, she has it strong with sculpting and writing too, contributing articles for art magazines and writing poetry and shairi now and then for her soul's emissions. Her album is available on international digital music stores like Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music and on her YouTube channel. Please continue to give your love and support by subscribing to the channel. Please click on the bell icon for further updates. Hello and welcome to Chaibrary. Today we have with us semi-classical singer Bhoomika Jain. Bhoomika, thank you so much for coming over and we are looking forward to having a lovely conversation with you.
I also want to thank Chaibrary for having called me and invited me here. It's an honor to be here on such a beautiful platform.
So Bhoomika, you're pursuing your music, but there are other things also you had done. So you were actually, I believe you have done your graduation in literature, your post-graduation, you've been a teacher in literature, you've got into sculpting. So how did music come about, and that too on the semi-classical music, which is a genre which needs a lot of dedication and practice?
So it started in a very standard way during my school years. The last 2 years music was one of my subjects, apart from art. And so those 2 years of music, my examiner who came to take the final exam, she told me you must opt for music, even for further studies and for graduation and all. So, and though my throat was really bad, she could still see that there was some spark over there. So she told me, I don't generally recommend people like that, but there's something, so I want to seriously recommend that don't miss out on taking music. So that was the first, kind of if I look back in history, that there were so many reminders. So, I mean, when I go forward into the rest of the story, this will be like, important chapters of my life in the past, which
that's what we would love to hear.
Yeah. So, post that it was 3 years of college, and that was the time I was
lucky. So, you never took music?
3 years of college with English honors and music.
Okay.
So music was definitely there during my graduation, and I was exposed to music through some very good musicians. Our teachers, lecturers over there in Rajasthan University, Maharani's College were very good. Two of them really inspired and motivated, and under the guidance of one of them, I had gone and given the audition over there at the All India Radio.
Okay.
So I was selected for the Yuvavani program. And behind the studio, the person who was listening to my voice, who was supposed to have approved of me, she called me and then she told me I can actually point out who's the teacher you're learning from my singing style. And she gave it away, so I was totally taken aback.
And she was right?
She was right.
Okay.
Mrs. Sumani Yadav was teaching us at that time.
Okay.
She's still very good. So 3 years of college, and then university, I'd filled up my form for music. But my mother and my family, they were a little jittery, they were scared.
University, matlab
masters
in
my
music.
Masters,
Okay.
So when I had filled up my form, but under that mental hindrance, I could not allow myself to go ahead with music. So फिर मैंने वो form बदल के English का form भर दिया.
So your family said not to go for it. Let's have a safer career,
because she felt that I was not worldly smart enough. You know, जो एक intelligence, worldly intelligence चाहिए होती है. She used to see me as a person who's very gullible, naive for this kind of scenario outside.
Right.
So I got convinced. It's not that there was any authority or anything. If I had the clarity, I would have actually put my foot down. No, nothing doing. I'm going ahead with music, but that clarity was missing. So you just do what you have been asked to do because
at that time, what you think the best.
Totally, and your adults or your parents want the best for you. Of course, they're coming from their own perspectives. So that's how it happened, and I remember that time. I mean, tears were streaming down my cheeks, and I'm actually filling up that form. Like somewhere inside my heart knew that you're doing one major mistake of your life, which you're going to really come.
Right.
So of course, your inner self somewhere maybe perceives it, but the mind outside has been absorbed,
the heart
has been impacted by the narratives around you.
Right, absolutely.
So that's how, but then after that, of course, after finishing my Masters, English turned out to be a joy, literature, somewhere, of course, I mean, since all these arts and literature are very deeply connected, so my journey with literature was very fulfilling. So even if I came there by fluke, so to say, but then
you enjoyed that.
I enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it, though I kept missing, craving for music. And then, of course, during college there was 1 year of Yuvavani regular contract, so I was singing at the every 2.5 months. I used to go there. I used to get a check of 250 rupees.
How nice!
I used to feel so proud of it. So, but that was it. After that, there was no more music learning, so that contract also stopped. And then I got a job offer from a private college over there. One of my lecturers told me that there's
This is where? Jaipur?
Jaipur, So immediately after my Masters, but I was already engaged to be married by then. So I didn't want to miss out on the offer. I went and gave the interview and I was selected. So I started teaching. And it was the college year 1, 2 and 3. All 3 years.
Right.
I was teaching and I found teaching so fulfilling, so, I mean, can't tell you how much I bonded with the students at that time and the interactions that happened, and literature was, like I said, I became very fond of it. So having had the opportunity to pass on the best of what the best authors of the world or the poets of the world have said to students who are wide-eyed and very curious about it. So it was a fulfilling, mutually fulfilling.
You're teaching undergraduate classes?
Yes, the college students, undergraduate. Then I got married and then suddenly everything came to a standstill, and for some time, of course, I was lost, and immediately post-marriage, of course, I was, already pregnant with my first kid in first 3 months. So then, of course, it was just family. And in the meantime, somewhere that, pain of missing out on what your spirit was craving for would come and, make itself felt to me so strongly now and then.
When would that happen, if you're on all alone or if you're going out listening to music from someone else?
It used to happen concerts happened later when my kids were a little grown up, when I could actually step out of the house, and if I would be listening to any musicians, instead of just enjoying good music, I would come back crying.
Yeah, because you're missing out on something.
Sometimes I would feel guilty. What is it? Am I so selfish that I can't just enjoy good music?
It's amazing how God keeps on giving us these reminders, right? Till you actually follow your passion.
So well said. Totally, yes.
If looking back, you would think this would be a natural point where I would move to music, right? Like if you look back at those moments, and that's what you would say. So which city were you in? You had moved out from Jaipur?
Yeah, from Jaipur to Delhi, and my husband had a transferable job. He was working with Blue Star at that time, so we shifted between cities. But Calcutta, it was just 3 years from my marriage, 2.5. And I found Mashkoor Ali Khan Sahab, somebody I was inquiring for a good guru. So I started going. I used to pick up the metro and find time once or twice a week.
Right.
And then started learning under him. So it was nearly like 10, 12 months. And then Ganda Band Shagirdi ka time aa gaya tha, he was going to do that. But then my husband was to get shifted back to Delhi.
Could you just explain what you just said right now?
So when you, Ganda Bandi hoti hai, when a guru actually
initiates.
It takes the student completely into his fold, and then it is like और ज़्यादा serious
it's
proper shagirdi, you know.
Okay, got it.
So that's how. So then I had to shift back. So then from there we moved to Calcutta. Then we went to Chennai. This is where I found Soumya Madan Gopalji. So North Indian classical music, she was teaching. Then after Chennai we moved to Bombay. But Bombay we didn't stay, luckily. I mean, we were not happy, and then we came back to Gurgaon.
Okay.
And by now my daughters were
older.
Not older in the sense, my younger one was just about 2, and I didn't have enough of a family support, you know. So music was constantly on the periphery. But occasionally when I had that little time for myself, or maybe I'm listening to some Lataji's, you know, Meera bhajans. There was a beautiful album that she had done, which was all based on rags, rag-based compositions. Or Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji and Lataji's duets. They were very, very, I mean, close to my heart. So I would keep doing these. तो ऐसे करते करते थोड़ा थोड़ा अपने लेवल पे कुछ चल रहा था कि something that you just can't stay away from, so it comes to you naturally. So वैसे चलता रहा. And साथ में sculpting also happened the very first year of my marriage. When I was pregnant with my first kid, I used to go by a bus all the way to Triveni Kala Kendra. Okay. And I used to go to the sculpture studio over there. And Saroj Jain used to be there then, and she was there for a very long time post that time also. Yeah. So उस group में सीखना तो ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं हुआ था, but you were doing your self work, so you just would see other people working.
And you had anyway art as a subject before also, so it was something.
Art was only there with me in school, but I was lucky enough to have my Masi, who was a proper artist at one time. But then of course she was the principal of a teachers training college later, so even her artistic journey got somewhere. Because I think arts was not an easy field for women, especially a generation even before me.
Right, of course.
So that's, I just saw her artworks, her paintings and her sculptures. So I would just get glued to them. So something about them, I would see the way she would do the anatomy or the flow in the body. So everything about her art, she was very good as an artist. So
she was one inspiration.
She was one huge inspiration. So every time she would come and spend time with me, she would teach me a little bit here and there. So watercolors, sketching and all that. So then I used to make a lot of...
So you pursued sculpting for quite some time? Did you do exhibitions and shows and all?
It's very interesting how it started, this journey of sculpting. My mother used to give us this gajar ka juice.
Okay.
So the pulp of that carrot thing, you know. So I don't know why, I just felt, so the moment it came into my hands naturally started sculpting something out of it.
That's an interesting material to start with.
So what amazes me is that when something is there inside you as a seed, it will express itself.
Yes,
and your environment has to be intelligent enough to perceive that, to guide you.
And nudge them to this. Of course.
Or there was where we were in a house जहाँ पे construction हो रहा था, तो पुट्टी थी, तो वो पुट्टी हाथ में आई, तो वहाँ पे भी कुछ हो गया, तो उसके बाद से ना अंदर से the urge became strong that I have to do this. So that was a very non-verbalized kind of an urge, but it was felt. So the first time a student of my college during second year told me he's going to learn sculpture from someone, so I said मुझे भी जाना है, बस the first thing was मुझे जाना है. And then I had to convince my father somehow, he allowed me to go. So it was the potters, पूरी गली वो कुम्हारों की गली थी proper. But Arjun Prajapati ji was an acclaimed artist, and he was even awarded the Padma Vibhushan, if I'm not wrong. So उनके अंडर में मेरे को शुरू में बस थोड़ा सा basic काम करने को सीखने को मिला. फिर for some reason or the other I couldn't continue there. But then it was there. So off and on sculpture would express itself, and then so I used to write my diary, you know, regularly, because I was a child. As a child, I grew up kind of not with many friends, and I mean, social skills, people skills were minimal there in me, and I was more of a solo, solitudinous person. So most of my time used to be either, you know, pursuing in my free time painting or singing, or like I said, I used to write my diary sometimes when something would be upsetting me. So diary writing came to me very therapeutically.
Did you do any shows, or did you participate in any exhibitions at all?
Yeah,
how
I
did.
You took that I did happen to get a chance to participate in a couple of shows, some in Delhi, Gurgaon, Epicenter, 1 or 2 in Jaipur. And
so
then
you also wrote about art, right?
I have.
How did that come about?
Yeah, that was the days when I used to go to Triveni Kala Kendra. So after a gap of almost like 15 years, I restarted at Triveni. And so it was this art critic Yadav, R.S. Yadav sir, and then one more. So thoda un logon se bhi interactions hue. Fir somebody said कि because you are a master's in English, why don't you explore this also?
Correct, of course.
And so I said, yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, it stuck with me, and then I started meeting people, talking, and then ऐसे ही करके कुछ opportunity आ गई, किसी ने writing assignment दे दिया, and then it started. So I started writing with Creative Mind, Art Journal, Mumbai, and then Kala Dirgha, and even Art and Deal. So that lasted. फिर of course वो क्योंकि I joined the school, so then I didn't have the time. तो बीच में वो वाली journey भी थोड़ी सी. So but off and on I keep writing whenever I get time.
So I believe you have more creative pursuits that you have. What else are there in your bag?
This is why I mentioned that diary writing, because then was the flow of expressing yourself that started with diary writing. So sometimes I would just kind of flip through my previous pages and feel surprised that okay, these are my own writings. Sometimes some good passage if I would see, so I would just kind of note a few lines. So I would be confused, ये मैंने copy किया है कि ये मेरा खुद लिखा है. So then of course the faith in my own writing kept building up, and एक दो बार ऐसे कुछ writing कुछ competitions थे. My lecturer, I gave him one of the pieces in response to the topic that was given to us. So he was perusing it, and Bhoomika, you write well. And the second time, so this was not one of the lecturers who would just immediately give you appreciation.
Would be so generous about it.
So दो बार उन्होंने बोला, so that also. So that's how, but then I used to then started writing poems here and there.
Okay.
Mostly prose and then poetry. Not much with rhyming pattern and all that, because we read Wordsworth and all sorts of, so the free blank verse and all, so I didn't want to get restricted into the idea of that skill being more, so that's how.
So you write in which language?
I write mostly in English, but Urdu was sewed inside because music was there, so having heard a lot of ghazals of Jagjit Singh ji and Ghulam Ali Sahab and all that, so kahin absorb kar hi lete hain hum language.
Correct.
So sometimes the urge to just write or express yourself in Urdu also started happening.
Also would love to hear some of your poems. I mean, of course, I'll ask you to sing at some point, but anything that you would like to.
Maybe I will share one or two small pieces with you.
Yes, of course.
Okay, first let me start with the English one. Okay, Solitude, Coming of Age. So that's the title of the work. So in this I have tried to convey my idea of how, once solitude is discovered, then the fear of loneliness can just get sidelined. And having been blessed with the artistic temperament, I do see that it's more of a solitudinous journey. As an artist, we are mostly alone. As a singer, you're mostly doing your riyaz alone, apart from the time you're performing in front of people. And then meditation, I didn't talk about that. Vipassana meditation came to me very early in my life.
Okay.
Before my marriage, I had read an article in the Indian Express, which was a full-fledged comprehensive coverage of the Vipassana meditation. And because as children, we were exposed to the discourses of Goenka ji, who used to run these courses there. So that content was very impactful.
Already,
and it was already there. So when I read that article again, the urge to go and do this was so strong that I tried to convince my parents, my family, and nobody was ready. And I was like, and those days I started reading a little bit of Osho also. So I told myself, okay, there's a lot of resistance, nobody's agreeing, nobody's allowing me to go. Let me just go sit, meditate. I'd started practicing meditation on my own with whatever little I'd gathered from the book of Osho. So I sat down with myself and told myself, I mean, if I get the answer, fine, let's see. So I sat in my room for 1 hour, and after I came down, it was so clear, like thing had just come up. And I just came and declared to my people, I'm going.
Okay.
So there was no permission seeking anymore. The clarity and the assertiveness with which it happened left me very surprised. And then my father didn't know what to say after that, and he just told my brother, go and drop her. So I went there. So coming back to the idea of solitude, because we lived there, we used to live there for say 10 days by yourself in your own room, and you're not supposed to talk to anyone. So it's complete mourn. So I think all that put together has, strengthened my journey in a solitudinous way. And then there are times when you question yourself, okay, or loneliness as has been understood or misunderstood comes and hits you, but then you realize there's a breaking point out from there. And that's when you discover the beauty of solitude.
It's required.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something that I've tried to express here. Solitude, coming of age. It's glimmering now, isn't it? A blessing in disguise, a flower releasing its fragrance slowly and gradually, a rugged terrain committing rewards upon exposed soles of the bare feet, now toughened, rendered robust. I recall it used to have a menacing demeanor, so much so at times that just the mere glimpse of it would trigger the eyes wet, the knees wobblesome, the throat lumpy. But I realized because it had a different attire then, a different persona, that of a haggard recluse, unexplored, it lay there, eerie in that haze, with daunting fangs, till that distance between us shrunk. This was a different being altogether, glowing mildly in the dark nights, wafting curls of fragrance unfettered, offering railings over frightful precipices. No wonder my wise friend had retorted back calmly to the clung idea of loneliness. Who did ever go so close to this apparent apparition? Who did ever dare to uncover its intimidating veil? Who did ever risk to jump into that dark den? One had to welcome those wounds, be more than a willing host to those swarms of stinging wasps, walk along with those skeletons, romping, twirling, pirouetting, to then have a glimpse beyond all those hallucinatory balloons waiting to burst with the slightest prick of truth. To avail the sight of the most pristine valley that awaited the last turn, just before which we had nearly decided to call it off. That's it. So this one, and
it's happened so many times, right? We nearly always decide to call it off before.
Yeah, so if we sustain beyond that point is the...
Right, yeah.
For example, very literal example of this, which is where this imagery came to in my mind, was that I had gone through the school for a trip to this campsite in the hills somewhere in Himachal, and because I was supposed to be sending the daily write-up to inform the parents of what the kids are doing and how things are going on. So I had more time at hand to myself vis-a-vis the other teachers who were supposed to be with the kids all the time. So wo beach wala time, I just decided to explore the the pahad behind the campsite. So I kept climbing and I was scared of losing the way because I easily lose the way. So every moment I was just turning back and ensuring I will be able to find my way back. And at one point, no, go back. And then you look at that point and that point is calling you, no, come forward, come forward. That kind of a communication happening between you and nature. And then at the last point, har baar aisa lag raha tha, ab chale jana chahiye, I might lose my way. But then again, when you look at that point, it's again calling you ahead. And finally, at that moment, when uske pehle I could have decided to go. And then suddenly the valley opens in front of you and you're like, oh my God,
you were just
I would have missed out on this.
Missing that, yes.
So it's so beautiful how life teaches you through these beautiful instances and they become metaphors for you.
Yes, absolutely.
So one more was...
This is the Urdu one you're reading?
Yeah. Ye majra kya hai? Again, there's a question. Ye majra kya hai? ये कौन सी पोशीदा रस्सियाँ रखी हैं खुद को कहाँ कहाँ से बांधा हुआ है ये माजरा क्या है और ये खूंटे कहाँ कहाँ गाड़े हुए हैं जिनके दायरों की हिदायत की तो यूं तामील है ये सिलसिला क्या है ये लोहे के बाट अपनी ही सांसों के ऊपर क्यों रखे हैं इतनी नफीस इन सांसों की चादरों में किन पिंजरों को लपेटा है ये माजरा क्या है अगर उसे वीरू की जान का खौफ ना होता तो बसंती भी एक बार उसकी बात सुन ही लेती और गब्बर के सामने नहीं नाचती पर तेरी ये आंखों की पुतलियाँ जो नींद में भी नाचती रहती हैं किन अय्याशों के हवाले कर रखा है ये सिलसिला क्या है ये माजरा क्या है ये वाकया क्या है
Wow, lovely.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Yes, and so all your artistic, I think every artistic pursuit is a way of trying to understand ourselves, isn't it? It's always our discovery of ourselves that happens. Okay, so this is like a huge spectrum of creative pursuits that you have. And why singing? If I were to ask you, at what point you thought this is the one that I should take forward?
Yeah, I think it happened progressively. There was not one specific moment. Yeah, of course, when I joined Pathways, and for 2.5 years, though I was enjoying the teaching part very much, enjoying connecting to the children, being able to pass on content, being able to create that inquiry-driven environment in the class where children are curious about stuff. So all that was extremely fulfilling. But the other side of it, which makes a corporate house a very, very suffocating place to survive for an artistic temperament, I believe. So that was building up on me. I was lucky enough to have some friends who I was constantly, kabhi kuch record kar liya, to share kar liya. So then I would keep telling or sharing, I want to go back to music, I wish I could go back to music. So 1 or 2 of such friends would say, okay, just, take that leap.
How many years back? 7, 8 years back?
7, 8 years back, huh. So then someone who was very fond of my music wanted to sponsor my album. So he pushed me, he said, go ahead, and I really want to. So then I went down Bangalore, down south, and then recorded the whole album. Some of them were converted into videos also, and the rest of them were this. So the album is on Apple Music and all these digital musical platforms.
So you started committing slowly more and more into this particular
so that was one major leap that happened, and after that I was beginning to see, ways opening up forward, but then Corona happened. So since COVID, suddenly everything got shelved back again.
Right, of course.
And then once again my hopes plummeted down, because I was like, even the best of the established artists are struggling at this time. So what about people like me who've started late? So I kind of just put it there, sitting patiently on it without hoping much. So that's how it was, but then kept doing my riyaz, and then of course connecting with people who were into music, like Kalagram you were mentioning, and so like-minded people. So something or the other keeps, opening a chota sa rasta. So somebody who used to organize programs like these, so I told him that I want to do a concert. So then IIC and all these things, happened. I sang with another artist over there who's also very, very accomplished. And so
IIC concert happened last year, I think, no?
This year.
This year. Okay.
So that was again one good substantial step in my musical journey ahead, where I could actually work seriously on some more serious genres of classical music, which is Thumri Gaiki, and I did some ghazals over there, and I really enjoyed myself and felt happy, and I got a very good feedback from people, so that was very encouraging. And
so is this a point of no return now? Singing is the way?
Yeah, I think, off and on, बीच में थोड़े disturbances आते हैं, थोड़ा doubt create करने के लिए, but then it's easier to kind of just let them go, because music is not something that immediately snaps into financial,
That's true. That's true.
So then, of course, that you feel that you still have so many years in your life where you can join a job and then.
So coming to that, it's an interesting topic that and relevant for all artists, visual or performing or singing. That, as you said, it to develop fully as an artist, it requires many years of riyaz, practice. For visual artists, for everybody, for performers, performing artists, and if someone starts late, so obviously that's a very important part of the conversation with yourself, of the bread and butter and your passion. So, and currently, what's your view about artists? How should they take it on in the current scenario, which is always much more competitive than it was before? So, what's your opinion about?
Good question, because this is the question that deterred me, every time you face that there's so many singers out there. Where is your place, how will you create a space for yourself? And I think it's this forward, backward journey, that taught me that it's not about, imagining much more in advance of actually having reached that what my place is going to be like. For me, what has opened up is that it's just about being true to yourself. As long as you're just expressing yourself, doing what God has given to you,
things will happen automatically.
Things will happen wherever it takes you is immaterial then. I mean, if we are genuinely bound to our passion, then the goal becomes immaterial. Then the joy of that moment-to-moment journey is what matters. But it's easier said than practiced, because the impact of the environment is so strong on us that we keep slipping back into the narrative of, where is this taking me? What is going to be the goal? Where you see yourself and
what's the stability, security,
insecurity and all that, all those factors. Long back when one of the first lecturers in college, who was kind of a novice, so she ended up making a statement which I feel should not have been made, but out of her ignorance, without having realized what she said. If I was a teacher now, after so many years, I know this is the last thing a teacher should ever tell a student. That she said, classical music में या music में अपना रास्ता बनाना, don't even think about it, because ये तो घरानों में जो बच्चे पैदा होते हैं, जो उन्हीं के लिए होता है, I mean, upper outside. And I was only 18, 19 then. So I had a whole, lifetime too. So even if one starts at that time, okay, you have not been born in a gharana, yet there's so much a person can do if he has that genuine passion for something. So if I had not believed her at that time, I would have maybe pursued my journey with more conviction.
Right, yeah. But so, I guess everything happens
everything
for a reason.
So we have to take detours in life.
Right.
Life has to teach us certain lessons.
So that brings me to a question that, like you're from a generation, I think we are from the same generation, where either it was Western music or it was Bollywood music, songs. So we were somewhere in between. So to come into a classical music and liking that and pursuing that, how did that come about?
This is again a very good question, and I'm so amused by the recollection of what happened. I mean, our generation, of course, Western music had already taken over. Especially totally. The convent schools were just always, you know, nothing lesser than English music is like snooty attitude.
Absolutely.
Jo hamara ho jata hai. So when I was awarded the Pandit Bhimsen Joshi cassette as the best senior singer of the school,
okay,
I came back and I erased the entire. I mean, I look back and I feel so shocked at what I had done at that time.
You erased the entire cassette
thing, and I recorded some crappy Western music in it. I mean, with due respect to good Western music also, I don't mean to pit them against each other.
This is when you were in class?
This was class 12.
12, okay, so, all right.
And then within 6 months span, just that little time, window of time of the exposure into classical music brought me to fall so much in love with classical music that my entire collection was only and only classical.
Classical music.
It was Kishori Amonkar or Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji or Pandit Jasraj or I mean you name them and I had them in my collection. Kumar Gandharv ji and so उसके बाद जो classical music की जो धुन लगी ना क्योंकि उसमें जो फिर आपको essence एक बार थोड़ा समझ में आ जाता है ना उसके बाद there is no looking back. It's like I had read this लेकिन थोड़े से छींटे पड़ जाए ना आपके ऊपर उतना काफी है. तो वो थोड़े से छींटे पड़ने की देर है. But it's sad that today's generation वो उतने छींटे भी नहीं हम लोगों के ऊपर पड़ पा रहे. Today या तब भी classical music was always a jeopardized kind of but then
why so actually? I mean, is it what you said some time back, is that true that it is within the gharanas it is very strong, so that's why it hasn't gone out, or what do you think the reason that it is still siloed in our
I think because the classical music, as we've heard very stereotypically, is for the masses versus the classes.
Yeah.
So because there is a preparatory process
which is rigorous, which is very rigorous, yes,
which requires some tapasya,
right,
and we for a long time have become that fast food generation,
right.
So junk versus the good quality food. Similarly, junk content versus high quality content, but उसमें आपको एक बारी थोड़ा सा like we learn swimming और underwater जाने के लिए जो एक मेहनत लगती है, जो एक दम रोकना पड़ता है,
correct, yes,
something like that, कि हाँ वो effort लेना पड़ेगा, and then there is a different world that opens up for you, which is like that wow world.
Right.
Oh, I'd never realized. It's a beautiful example that comes to my mind from Harry Potter, where the very first movie, Harry Potter is going on that station and the address is given 9 3/4. Yeah. And then suddenly there is this pillar and he has to just jump into it, run into it. So it's like that, there is a whole arena right there
in front
where
of you.
We are living and we don't have access to it.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
It is sad. But the repeating narrative that's coming from what you are saying is every time you were getting some signs and you were pushing it away, but yet it was coming back. I mean, it was, so it is destined. You are destined to do this. I mean,
it's because I created that belief when that teacher had said that
right.
hey, this is not for the likes of us. So I had kind of unconsciously or subconsciously given to that.
Yes.
But off and on when I would be singing, something inside would tell me, no, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do this. So that voice kept coming, but in a very mild way.
Even if you removed all Bhimsen Joshi's cassette, erased it still came back within 6 months. That's quite a funny thing. So what do you think we can do in our generation, or to increase the awareness of Hindustani classical music? Because most of us have not been educated in it, and once you're not educated, appreciating something becomes difficult. It also happens in art and in fine art, so anything that you can maybe suggest to a general mom of kids, we are, for young kids, how does one increase awareness, or what do you think should be done? Because what you do is still rare actually. People are into music, but into classical music, much rare phenomenon. So
I think it's a very, of course, a very important question which needs to be asked, and asked again and again, so that people keep putting their head to how do we make it happen. It's like this beautiful platform, Chaibrary, and what Mr. Zerotia is doing. I mean, if there are more of such platforms where people are talking to the ones who have been able to pursue and who come and share their journeys, and if there are more people listening to stuff like this, then they will know that, oh, they have children in their houses who may be born with that seed, and they need to be given that direction. Plus, how do we increase love for classical music is by understanding and accepting to ourselves that we have somewhere gotten used to or habituated to just consuming trash. We need to eliminate that.
One nice thing that I'm seeing as a part of somebody who's not grown up understanding classical music is that the concerts are a lot more approachable, accessible. People who are singing also explain the background a little bit more, give some anecdotes, some context, so that everyone can understand. So that I thought is a interesting way to educate slowly but steadily the audience. So that's one thing. So what are the big dreams as a singer? What is it that you're looking forward to?
Just to respond to what you said before that, so I found that Spikmike does a great job out of it. I mean, when they turn it into lecture demonstrations, so
lecture demonstration, that's what it's called,
demystifying the very ununderstood concept of classical music, and a little bit here and there.
Even in classical dance, it is happening a lot, which is also a good welcome change.
So that kind of a thing can be more consciously practiced. Big dreams of music. Dreams, yes. Sometimes I used to feel, oh, dreams are only, they create more suffering in life, so steer clear of dreams. But now I consciously remind myself it's a good thing to continue dreaming and continue moving towards it. To music, I mean, to spend the rest of my life doing the things that God gifted to me. Someone mentioned long back that God's love for you is what He gave to you, and your love for Him is what you did with the things that He gave to you. So that stuck with me. So now I just want to be true to being able to do justice to whatever's been given. And of course, it enriches me and nourishes me every day.
So on that note, would definitely love to hear a few songs, some few lyrics from you.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I could do a little bit of the different genres that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So one famous bhajan by Kumar Gandharji, and then a little bit of all of them.
Oh, that's great. That would be nice.
This is originally done by Pandit Kumar Gandhar, who's among the most recognized of the Indian gurus of classical music, and then redone by one of my favorite contemporary artists, Rahul Deshpande ji. Sunta hai Guru Gyani, 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 sunta hai Guru Gyani, Gyani, Gyani. गगन में आवाज हो रही, भीनी 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 भीनी, सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी, ज्ञानी ज्ञानी. वहाँ से आया पता लिखाया, वहाँ से आया पता लिखाया, तृष्णा तो उन्हें बुझाई बुझाई, तृष्णा तो उन्हें बुझाई बुझाई. अमृत छोड़ छोड़ विषय को धावे, अमृत छोड़ छोड़ विषय को धावे, उलटी फांस फसानी हो जी, फसानी हो जी. सुनता है गुरु ज्ञानी, ज्ञानी 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 ज्ञानी. So this is a mand, very famous one, Rajasthan, Kesariya Balam. Kesariya Balam, aavo पधारो म्हारे देश जी केसरिया बालम आवोनी पधारो म्हारे देश जी पिया प्यारी बालम आवोनी पधारो म्हारे देश जी जावण आवण कह गयो दे गयो काल नेक जावण जावन आवण कह गयो दे गयो काल नेक गिनता गिनता मिट गई भारी आंगलियारी रेख रे आंगलियारी रेख रे केसरिया बालम आवोनी पधारो म्हारे देश जी पधारो म्हारे देश.
So beautiful. It just transports us to a very different plane altogether. Thank you so much for singing. We really loved it. So has there been any time in your life when you thought that maybe you can't continue with music or something, any kind of obstacle that came to you that made you question yourself?
This happened during my school years only, towards the last, the 3 years of my teaching the IB. And that time, vocal abuse is something that generally teachers go through because you're catering to a class of 25, 30 students, and children are generally noisy, they're not listening. So to reach out all of them, you're, abusing your vocal cords. So at one point, and plus there was some annual production where the director wanted me to sing. So we ended up choosing a song which was called C sharp or something, Lata Ji's scale. And because my throat was not used to or habituated to, now I manage those scales. But then that time, so 3 days in a row, wo jo practice hui with the guy, the pianist in the school, that suddenly my throat became so bad that something inside got really injured or something. So I realized that my voice had become croaky and it would split. And I just couldn't sing. So it came as a shock. Then I talked to people and I went and showed myself to a throat specialist. And then he said endoscopy, so the thing was, inserted inside my throat, and then he checked there was a cyst, so vocal cyst had gotten formed.
Because of
that vocal abuse. And then I was told by another doctor that generally teachers go through something like this. My thing, in my case, maybe it also got
because of your singing and practicing singing,
So that 1 year was so painful, and I had kind of, been shifting or like a pendulum between hope and hopelessness that my voice will never come back to me.
And this is also around the time we were almost deciding that you will pursue singing.
Yes. So then it was very painful to go through that. And then I told, in my closed eyes phase, I was having a conversation with God, pleading to him, God, please give my voice back to me. And it's like, he's telling me, he's replying back, why should I give it back to you? You never give it the importance that you were supposed to give it. You let things come in the way. Which is, of course, because of the pressure that world puts on you. Which is what I feel is a struggle of a lot of artists who do not give it the conviction-driven treatment that art is supposed to be given. So anyway, then I promised him, God, if you give me my voice back, and I will not let anything else come in the way. And uske baad, I got a job offer once I left the school from the best of the schools which I really wanted to work in. And this guy calls me up and he says, you have to come for the interview. And then I recalled that conversation with God. I sent him a message and then he called me back. He said, are you saying that you're not coming? because he knew that I was really keen for that offer. So I was like, yes, I am not coming. So I had shocked myself also and him also, because I was leaving out on something which was really coveted and really wanted by me for a long time. But that was the time that the promise with God played.
Had already happened, and you had already made the decision. And we are all glad that you made the decision, because
I keep my fingers crossed that I give you a reason to continue feeling glad.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if I were to ask you, what is creativity for you? What is art for you? Because you've been a visual artist also.
It's a beautiful question.
You've been a creative person all through and through. So
it took me years to understand the layers and layers of what art should ideally be to a person. I mean, we've always heard that art is about self-expression. But initially when I had colors and all the medium that I had to work with, it was always about, you know, driving at a destination ki aise painting banni chahiye, ye result hona chahiye. It wasn't about exploring yourself with colors, which came more in the sculpting medium, because I had never had a preconceived notion in my head of what I'm creating. Clay used to be there and would keep guiding itself, and I would just come up with forms. And once that form is created, it would tell me a story of what it wanted me to convey through it. There was once that I made a woman who's just bound up with a serpent. And then I participated with that sculpture piece in the heritage school, where the principal was very artistically oriented, so unki wajah se bhi hamara kafi. So the lady who had come to as the chief guest, she looked at that piece and she was completely taken aback. She says, this is something so deep and it's mentioned in our mythology somewhere. And she gave me a critique of it, which I had no idea about. So then I realized whatever she said was so true to what was happening in my consciousness, that
just intuitively came back.
Such a revelation to your inner being. So that is what, I mean, you know, getting as close to answering your question, that what should art be, is about just expressing yourself, just having the freedom to express yourself without having to reach any, you know, goals or those rungs of the ladder.
And you will be guided naturally from inside.
Then you're listening to the inner guidance.
Right.
And that makes it a very mystical journey.
Correct. And you are in a mystical journey in your singing career, definitely. Okay, so give us some feedback about Chaibrary as a platform, and what can we do to increase the genres of art? What can we do to increase the awareness of classical music, you know, and performing art? Any ideas would be welcome for us to.
I think what Chaibrary is doing is already commendable. I mean, the few interviews that I saw, and I was so happy to see that artists who are from very deep villages and who found their journeys here come forward, and then they're giving us the past vis-a-vis the present, where they're now established artists or maybe in the nascent stages of their art expressing themselves. Is so beautiful, because that makes it very relatable for the general masses to feel inspired and to give art its due. So I think Chaibrary is already there, and more of maybe what more they can do is that reach out to more festivals, art festivals, music festivals, reach out to more artists, which it is already, of course, doing religiously.
Cover more festivals and all that, and use this platform as to increase awareness. Yeah, that's a wonderful feedback and wonderful advice, and it was absolutely amazing to have you here and to listen to your singing. So thank you so much, Bhoomika, for coming over.
Thank you, Lubna. I was so grateful. The first interaction with you itself, you made me so comfortable, and I'm so grateful to Mr. Zerotia for inviting me here, and grateful to Chaibrary, and look up to it, and wanted to continue doing the wonderful work that it is.
That's great. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Chaibrary, and please continue to give your love and support by subscribing to the channel. Please click on the bell icon for further updates. Until we meet again, this is Lubna Sen from the sets of Chaibrary. Do take care.